Welcome, everyone. Episode 69 of the Health and Wealth Podcast. Steve Giordano here with awesome special guest, my brother, the king of carpet in Long Island, New York, the one and only Chris Giordano. Round of applause. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm well. Been wanting to get you on forever. You're down in South Florida. How has your trip been so far?
It's been fantastic. Appreciate you guys putting me up, you and Margot, at the beautiful Giordano Estates, hanging out with you guys, Mom, and my two beautiful nephews. Doesn't get any better.
Right? So, I mean, a lot to unpack here. Thinking about, God, we've went through life together. We've been through the wars together, the good, the bad, the ugly. We both ended up in sales. By the time this is over, I'll probably recruit you to do insurance sales. And you probably would if things are a little different in New York as it is.
Probably. The biggest sales pitch is just South Florida. I mean, that's all you got to pitch me, and might be able to get me down here.
I mean, how do you not want it? Like, it's incredible. I mean, although the heat, I don't know. Can you handle the heat?
Year round, be a bit of adjustment, but it's great down here. I mean, always have a good time. There's plenty to do. Love New York, born and raised there, obviously. But coming down here, it's just a different world. The one problem I think I'd have is it's like every day almost feels like you're on vacation. So it would be tough to gas it up for work the first couple months because you feel like you're on a vacation every time you come down here.
True. You know how you got to work that, though? Because I learned that. Is you learn that people down here are lazy.
Okay.
And you're like, man, I'm going to run circles around people because people are going to be at the beach or people are going to this and whatever. But, yes, that is a trap that a lot of people fall into. So thinking back, like, growing up, you know, we kind of started out, like, big into sports. And I think sports kind of taught us a lot of things that we took into business. You were a big-time Pat Med football star.
Sure.
Patchogue Medford Red Raiders.
Yeah.
Give him a shout out. Thinking back growing up, and also I'll talk about like our dad and kind of the things that he instilled in us in like work ethic and how he was. What are things for you that you think back and you say, man, like growing up, seeing him and how our mom worked, how that impacted you into where you kind of are today?
It's true. I mean, because watching them two, how hard they worked. Dad was always working 2 jobs. Mom was working in sales, raising us. Just they really instilled that work ethic, which obviously I know you have now. I think I may have some of that, but no, they really just showed us what because for that, it was different too. I mean, again, Dad was working 2 jobs, Mom was working, just to provide for us. So it was probably a grind for them. And, just watching that, we grew up in a middle class home, a middle class area, and it just made you appreciate what we had. So for me, and I'm sure for you, especially with our father, we kind of connected through that work ethic and also connected through sport, which we're both fanatical about still to this day. And, playing sports growing up and even still playing recreational sports, I think that for me, it's always that competitive drive. And it's something that I've always reached towards because it's something that you really could relate to any aspect in life, especially in business, in whatever career you're doing, putting that work ethic in and putting in the work, and you're going to get whatever you put in, you're going to get back. And that's something that I feel that I do, and I'm sure you do as well, feel that we took from both of our parents.
Yeah, for sure. What are like when you think back as a kid, like a young kid, what are like some of your most fondest memories? And I bet you I probably know some of them, and maybe there's some I don't. Like your fondest memories of just growing up and you're like, man, this was like such a cool, impactful thing for me.
Well, I think about growing up in our neighborhood, how tight-knit, we were as brothers, as tight-knit we were with our community, our friends, growing up with Joey and Anthony and all the kids on our block, and how close we were. And just I miss just going out and playing 2-on-2 football on the street, me and Joe versus you and Richie, and just playing all day, all night, waiting for the ice cream man to come, get a couple wrestling bars, right back at it. 2-on-2 football, 2-on-2 basketball, me and Joe playing you 2-on-1 in basketball. Just getting out and enjoying our neighborhood, our friends, and just the camaraderie that we have. And, you know, with a lot of those people, you know, especially with my best friends, I still have to this day, and I attribute it back to that. You know, and with me and you just growing up, you know, watching sports with Dad, watching wrestling with Dad, you know, it's something that we still gravitate towards now. You know, I try and show Nicholas and Dominic whenever I can. I know Margot's not a big fan of it, but
she'll learn to love it.
Yeah, I mean, just that. It was just a good time. Carefree is the best way I can put it. You know, you didn't have to worry about paying a mortgage. You didn't have to worry about making the rent. It was just a great time in my life, and it's something that I'm appreciative of thinking back of, and it's something that I'll never forget.
Yeah, for sure. You know, as a big brother, I think I always felt there's a responsibility. You know, like there's a responsibility. Hopefully, I did a decent job. A responsibility to help you. And I think what was cool about me and you was we have a 3-year age difference. You're 3 years older.
I look at
3-year age difference, but we always were in the kind of the same circle, and I always wanted to make sure that you were kind of in the circle and it wasn't like you were outside of the circle. Yeah. And we always would fight, like play fight. Like we never had ever a fight, right? But we would play fight. And it was almost one of those things where I was like, well, I'm going to make them tough. I'm going to toughen them up.
Yeah. I agree, and I think you did. And we did. Sometimes the fights got a little bit more aggressive. I mean, you would never put me over for whatever reason, but I guess that's what you got to do as a younger brother. But no, I agree. I mean, we always had again, we were 3.5 years apart, so it's not like it was 10 years. But we were always close. You know, I always felt that we could connect and kind of, I could talk to you about a lot of things. And, again, I appreciate that. I appreciate, my friends, my family, just having a sounding board and, be able to talk to people and, about going through different things, whether it's, your first date, whether it's, trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do with your life. It's always good to have that, especially for me. I value a male relationship, and it being able to talk to, people who have been there, done that, and kind of shared the same experiences that you're going through.
Yeah. It's interesting. We'll give a shout out to our parents here because I think now being an adult and being a parent myself, which is still crazy to even think about, the pressure that it went through that when you're a kid, you don't understand, you know what I mean? And I think being appreciative of what they were able to do. I mean, like, they both worked insanely hard, and what was interesting and what was good, and I think things in life, they happen and you see them when you're younger and it kind of molds you. Dad's, the hardworking man and mom gets into a business, right? And I gravitated to both in a sense, understanding like, okay, we got to work hard. But then like, wow, like cool, like the business sense over here. So it was kind of like that blend. And the reality is like actually 3 or 4 of us ended up in sales, if you think about it.
Yeah.
He was the only one who wasn't in sales. Right. How do you feel seeing that and then seeing mom's sales and maybe me that's led you now to where you're at? Because you're doing very, very well. Tell us a little bit about kind of that and then kind of your company and your setup.
Yeah, so again, just going back to, watching how hard they worked, 1. 2, mom was in sales and she would always have her parties at the house. So I could kind of see, kind of the energy and her as a sales leader, sales manager, kind of what that looked like. And then obviously, watching you, you didn't start in sales, obviously, and then watching you now, there's a lot of just traits that you can take from both of them in every aspect of life that you could put into sales. For me now, with what I do, a little bit different than your sales is I'm a territory manager in the sense where I don't necessarily have to cold call and go after business. I have to farm and grow my accounts. Been in the flooring industry for, God, almost 20 years now, and started as a kid in the warehouse, worked my way up to, now working for Mohawk, which is the largest manufacturer distributor in North America for flooring. And started with a small territory. There was 3 other reps at the time to where it's evolved now to where I'm the only carpet guy on Long Island. But I also sell hard surface, which is, the big thing in flooring these days. And just really, for me, the biggest thing that I think I do well is that I have a good rapport and good relationship with my customers. I feel that I'm trustworthy. I feel like they can count on me. I'm dependable. The biggest thing is answering the phone and getting back to customers and following up. But it all goes back to just, again, I think the biggest thing is just relationship with people. In any sales in any industry, I think if you have a good relationship and people trust you and want to work with you, I think you're going to do a good job. I think you'll do well with it.
Yeah, 100%. So going back kind of like the high school years, you were a very good football player, played tight end, played all the way up to senior year, won Long Island Championship. You were in 11th grade.
Yeah, my junior year.
It was junior year.
Correct.
What happened in 12th grade? I can't remember.
We lost in the first round of the playoffs to William Floyd by 28-21 and still haunts us.
Okay, got it. Yeah, now I vaguely remember that. Okay.
I think we would have made it to the LIC that year. We would have had a tough time winning it because Freeport was really good. But I think had we won that game, I think we would have made it to the championship. But, it is what it is.
Thinking like how I asked you before, like a moment that you remember. For me, I'll never forget being at Sachem and you score a touchdown. And it was a beautiful, it had to have been like a 25-yard out or something, right? And I'll never forget my reaction, but just watching Daddy's reaction, I think, was more like clearly you couldn't be there because you were, in the game. But that, for me, I was like, holy crap. Like, that was just incredible. Yeah. And then won that game. That was the year you won the championship, right? That was the senior year. Okay. Yeah. But then, you guys win the Long Island Championship junior year. Yeah. But that was really cool. Tell me how kind of the football journey, what you learned from it, what you wanted to get out of it, and then how it's kind of led you into business and life now.
Right. As far back as I could remember, the thing that I've been most passionate about is football. Growing up from a very young age, becoming a Cowboy fan young when they were very good in the early 90s, following Troy Aikman to, all through the 90s, all I wanted to do was play football or do something involved in football. Till when again, we used to play every day outside, and I felt like, I'm pretty good at this, but I didn't play organized until, 7th grade. So playing through middle school and through high school, again, I felt like I was getting better and better. I always was a good receiving tight end or receiver. I always had good hands. I feel like was my best attribute, even still to this day. I don't think I'm the greatest athlete in the world, but I think that's, one thing that I did really well. Up until, again, we won the LIC my junior year, and then in 12th grade, fell a little short. But I actually won in our award ceremony Most Improved Player my senior year. And my coaches grabbed me and they said, it's because of your blocking. Because they told me going into senior year, they said, listen, you're not going to be on the field unless you can block. Again, back then, 2002, 2003, they weren't running pro-style offenses. I caught maybe 7 passes my senior year. So
yeah, the run percentage had to be what, like 75, 25?
Maybe even higher, but at least. So I felt like I really put my best foot forward that senior year, even though the team fell short. Was still proud of the team, and I think that, we played very hard. Our junior year, we were stacked. I mean, the senior year, we lost a lot of guys, but, the year we won it, we were stacked. But I knew if I was going to get on the field and play more than, 10, 12 plays a game, I had to block. So bringing it full circle to kind of where I'm at now in my life in terms of how I work and prepare and sell, I think that football just gives you a discipline where, again, if you don't do what you're asked, you're not going to be on the field. If you don't have a good regimen, if you're not motivated, you're not gonna win. You're not gonna win in sport. You're not gonna win in sales. You're not gonna win in any walk of life. So I think that football it gives you a very disciplined structure, gives you a very disciplined attitude, and I think if you can make it in that structure, you can translate it to any walk of business, sales, any career that you get into, in my opinion.
Who was your coach who was most impactful, who you think you learned the most from?
It's a great question. I would say my senior year, Gary Morangi, who actually he came on my junior year, but he was our offensive coordinator. He actually played for the Buffalo Bills in the 70s. He was a backup for the Bills, and he just came in and brought a different attitude and knowledge. I mean, I was playing for guys that, were good high school coaches, but this guy had made it to the ultimate level of the sport. And I always just took what he taught more to heart, I guess you could say, because, I mean, he brought a credibility to the position. And I would say if I had to pick one, it would be him.
Yeah, I love that. Who do you think was the player that you played with who, was the best leader and the guy who really just, you learned the most from him?
It's a good question. I would say we had a tight end who I backed up my junior year. His name was Jesse Miller. Fortunately, he has since passed, but he played with such a passion and just really worked hard and set a good example to say, all right, if this guy's going to work this hard, then, me, second, third string tight end at that time, I got to work even harder if I'm going to sniff the field. So I think we had a lot of guys like that. And I think it was, again, we had you went to Patchogue Medford, the kind of the group, good group, good camaraderie. I think we were very close, whether you were a senior down to the guys in 9th and 10th grade trying to make the team. So I always thought that was good too. We always had a good group. We would always have pasta parties the Friday or Saturday night before the games. We would, hang out, eat pasta, play Xbox, whatever we were doing. But we were always hanging around each other during the season. We were, weight training during the off season. So I always felt like that was good. And again, I think if you have a good camaraderie, if you're willing to battle for the guy next to you, I think that's going to make for a good team atmosphere. Again, whether it's in sport or sales or any walk of life.
Yeah, love that. So now, you're kind of navigating through life. You're navigating through,
to say the least.
To say the least, we all are.
Yeah.
You kind of get into the working world. How was it for you there? What are things you struggled with? What are things you overcame? Stuff like that.
So the toughest thing for me after my senior year, I thought I was going to play more football, and whether it would be go to Cortland, go wherever I could try and just maybe walk on and play. I wasn't ready to give it up. I had an issue. I took a semester off because, I felt like I had to work and just maybe wasn't ready to go away. And I still regret that to this day. So that was the biggest struggle for me. That brought me into, I kind of was working in the industry I'm in now, again, at the bottom level. So full circle, I'm still in the industry, but for me, that wasn't necessarily my dream in life. So I did struggle a little bit after high school, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do, which direction. And, thinking back, I don't like to say I have regrets, but that's one move I would like to get back, if for no other reason, maybe just to get away, get that college experience, maybe play a little bit more football at a higher level. But everything happens for a reason, and I can't say that it didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, for sure. So now we've always been avid wrestling fans, which is people, you can call it what you want. Don't judge. You know what I mean? Don't judge. But avid wrestling fans, right?
Yep.
To this day, what is it about professional wrestling that does it for you?
I don't. That's a great question. I guess the storytelling, again, I think it was just something that growing up, Dad was like, I like wrestling. So we were kind of like, oh, we like wrestling too. And then, it just kind of took on a life of its own. I think, honestly, to me, it's like anything else. It's a TV drama. but again, to me, the storytelling, you could go back. I mean, we argue all the time about, our favorite matches and wrestlers, but, you look at a match like Brett and Austin from WrestleMania 13 to me is like the best match ever, just storytelling wise. But, well, there it is.
There it is.
I mean, there's a kid out in Jersey, Anthony Alexander, who won't appreciate this man for whatever reason, but he, it's great. I mean, what about you? I mean, what brought you to it?
I guess it was kind of the same. I always enjoyed the story and the drama. And you know what it is? Like, people like get on you like, oh my God, you're a wrestling fan, which fact of the matter is like most people are anyway. They just don't want to admit it. And somebody posted something today. It said, wrestling's fake. And then somebody responded, yeah, all the movies you watch are fake too, right?
Correct.
So we all have our thing.
Right.
I like the drama, the story. And I'll say this. I've always, and I know he's got a lot of controversy going on right now, but Vince McMahon, I always admired the business sense of what he did and the balls he had, the balls he still has. Right. And that, to me, was a big piece of it. And let's face facts. You go through the pandemic, you got to give them credit. They're sitting there producing a show with no fans.
Right. That you're still not caught up on.
That I'm still trying to figure out. Yeah, I don't even know if we're past that. Yeah. But, the guy's running a business, and he literally takes it from a territorial-only business to a global business to now it's like even more of a global business. Right. And he had such, foresight into the future, into things that were coming, like streaming. Now, he has a network now for 5 years, and now the NFL is going to go stream everything. You know what I mean? So that I've always been an admirer of his from that business perspective. And then, look, the stories, the fun, the drama, the ass kicking, all that stuff. Right. It's enjoyable.
Well, he's the ultimate salesman, right? I mean, that's what we're here. I mean, he's been selling for years, so again, to each their own, different strokes for different folks. I mean, I'm not going to be embarrassed that I'm still a fan. I mean,
I'll wear my belts around. I don't care.
I've seen it, but listen, it's one of those things. It's entertainment,
And while we're here, we do got to talk about Anthony while we're here. Sure. So Anthony Alexander from New Jersey. How did you meet?
So I've been working for Mohawk for about 4 years at the time. And my boss is like, I'm coming out to the island. We have a new hire that's going to be taking over in Jersey. So kid pulls up and,
he pulls up and then this is playing out of his car.
Basically. So we met briefly, but a couple months later, we had our regional show down in Atlantic City, and I'm walking through the casino, and I see this kid in a nice pair of Jordans, backwards hat, smoking a Marlboro Light, and I hear him playing wrestling trivia with two of the other kids at work, and they're like, where was WrestleMania 22? And I'm like, oh my God, these guys like wrestling, all right. So we immediately hit it off. I mean, we have similar interests. I guess if you looked at us, you would be like, these kids, these guys are nothing alike. But we have a really good rapport outside even just being wrestling fans and being into music and movies and whatnot. Which he's a big music guy. But we are really good colleagues. He's in Jersey, I'm on Long Island, so we call each other every day, and we just use each other as a sounding board, whether it's to bitch about the day, whether it's to talk about why we can't deliver this, why we can't do that, how do you do this. It's just, to me, it's good to have, because a lot of times, what we do, there's a lot of moving parts, and manufacturing, distributing, sales is tough at times. So we have
it is.
It's not easy.
Never.
The warehouse won't ship this. The warehouse manager hates us. So we have a really good work partnership, so to speak, because we could use each other as sounding boards. How would you do this? How would you tackle this? And outside of that, we forge a really good friendship. So to the fact to where he's one of my best friends. He obviously Joe. For years, we grew up with, my best friend, to where Anthony, Joe, and I came down to South Beach last year. So
yes.
We brought him down to Miami for his first trip. But, Yeah, great guy. Great friend.
That's cool. So now for you, what's the future hold? What are your goals in the next 5 years for yourself? Big question.
That's a good question.
It's a good question.
I think a
right?
lot of people have been asking me. No, I think in terms of career-wise, I think I like to, be in a position where, maybe I can grow my territory, exponentially. Maybe it's moving into a different segment, getting into more of the hard surface side of what we do. Because, again, carpet is a shrinking piece for us. But in terms of my personal life, I would really just like to, figure out,
Figure it out. We're all figuring it out.
Figure it out long term, what, because like I come down here and I see, you guys, and I see the kids, and it's just like your kids are awesome, and I'm just like, I think I want that, I'm 37, I'm not getting any younger, but
and we're recording this, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ultimately, I'd say, hopefully by the time I'm 40, I'd like to, settle down and hopefully have a kid and, hopefully be making a lot more money than I'm making now.
For sure. That's why you're going to sell insurance.
Yeah. Possibly, yeah.
So to that, now being an uncle, right? Or unkeek, as Dominic would call you.
For sure.
Like, I see a difference in you. Hell, clearly I see a difference in me having kids. But I see a difference in you because you definitely have a great rapport with kids and with him and Nicholas and everything. Like, how has that kind of changed you a little bit? Because I notice it whenever you're there or talk about them or your enthusiasm.
It's true. I've always loved kids, enjoyed kids. Like I said, I have a great relationship with your kids. My friends back home, all their kids, would consider me an uncle, and I have that great relationship. And I mean, listen, I could see myself as a father. I think, I guess it's one of those things where, and I'm sure you could attest to this more than I could, where you're probably, no one's ever ready, I guess.
Yeah,
it's kind of just you figure it out.
I haven't been ready for anything I've done in the last 10 years.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much how I feel. But, I think that, I think you're right. I mean, coming down here and kind of unwinding for the weekend and just, being with the kids and just unplugging from everything else, it definitely gives you a different perspective. Because, again, we can work hard. We can make all the money in the world. We can do what we're going to do. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's your legacy, is those kids.
For sure.
And that's, family is really what it's all about. Back to, our parents, that's something that they instilled in us, like how close we were growing up as a family. And, I think that that's something that is very important. So maybe one day.
For sure. And we'll close it with this. So if you're fantasy booking the main event of WrestleMania, Roman versus the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, how does Chris book this main event?
I mean, to me, it's simple. The Rock interjects, hits Roman with a rock bottom. Cody goes over. Cody's made with the title. Roman keeps his heat, doesn't lose face by getting jobbed out by The Rock, and then that sets up a match for them for next year, whenever The Rock can get in the ring. I mean, I know it's tough for them. The guy's got a busy schedule, but to me, that's how you would do it.
I'm in on that. I think where we got to go here, because you feel like Roman's going to get some time off here for a while. You're going to ride the Cody. They'll probably go back to the Seth angle because that was hot, and he's another opponent. Yeah. The issue is, how do you create – it's like they have a lot of guys, you know what I mean? But do they have a lot of stars? And the stars are the hardest guys to make because it takes a lot of time. Right. But to me, it's like there's got to be people elevated that we care about.
Right. I agree. It's tough. I see a lack of star power. I guess I would agree with you. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm not as excited as I was for this year's, picturing that maybe The Rock would be there, and then that kind of got erased quickly. But, we'll see. I'm more looking forward to next year when the Cowboys come down here to play the Dolphins.
Yes.
And we go to the game together.
And help us.
I will be pretty inebriated for that one. But no, it'll be a good time. So I look forward to that. And I would be remiss if I didn't shout out Marianne, who's the best. She's awesome. want to thank her for everything and putting up with me. You know, and just thank you for having me. You know, this was a great time.
Sure.
You know, we should do it again. I mean, we could break down whatever matches
We'll
you
do
want.
part 2. We'll do a watch along.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to say on the whole like building stars. As much as I love seeing the backstage stuff and the documentaries, like I love it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem becomes you then lose the aura and they become like real people. So like I'll give you an example. They do this Dominic storyline with Ray.
Right.
And it's you know, obviously we know they're father and son, whatever.
Right.
But they're not acting. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I could see this dude coming out at the Hall of Fame and like beating him up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
And that would be cool.
Yeah.
Because it's suspending the reality.
Right.
The problem now is I feel like you don't have enough of that.
Right.
You know, there's too much like you broke kayfabe and now there's too much
Right.
seeing it. And I'm sure it's a balance for them because, you know, obviously it's a moneymaker.
Without a doubt.
You know what I mean? But I think it hurts star power.
No, I agree. And it kind of goes back to your point. You know, they broke kayfabe years ago. But you look at like a storyline like Brett and Owen, brother versus brother. I mean, we were doing that before they were. But
That's right.
You know,
We did it before it was cool.
But back then it was, wow, this is real. You got two brothers, you know, fighting each other. And the younger brother goes over. And
Nobody wants to see two brothers fighting, pal.
right. I mean, but, you know, again, I agree. You know, the kayfabe stuff is good, you know, to see it. But I to your point, it does kind of, the lines were a little more blurred back then. Now it's, you know, again, but we know what it is.
True. Very true. Well, thanks for coming down. Thanks for joining us. And we're on the way to recruiting you to an insurance career. Even if you added it to what you did, I think we'll definitely get you. Everybody comes around eventually, especially if you're in sales. You told me this morning you had a crazy good year last year. It was probably the best you ever had, right? In sales. Yeah. This year, you're a little behind, whatever, because obviously it's a different, you know, new year. I'm sure you guys had a pandemic aspect of what you do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I actually was up the pandemic year because I have a couple of accounts that do builder work, so they weren't as affected as, you know, because retail was closed for 3-4 months out there. But yeah, and last year financially was the best year I had, you know, in terms of sales and, you know, my position with the company. This year, I think I'm going to work my way back to it. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I mean, listen, I you know, we'll think about the insurance. Maybe it's something part-time. I mean, like they say, everyone's got a price, right?
It's very, very true. Well, thanks for coming out. Thanks for being my brother. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.